Welcome to Lawyers Who Care, the video show podcast that highlights attorneys who go above and beyond for their clients. And on each episode, we will meet a new lawyer and they will share stories of when they went beyond legal counsel for the benefit of their client. My name is Andrew Samalin. I'm the principal of Samalin Wealth, a nationally recognized wealth management firm for lawyers, their firms, and their clients. And let's applaud lawyers who care and learn from them. Today, my guest is Bryan Davis of Davis Roberts, a law firm in Jacksonville, Florida, and Bryan's practice is focused on commercial law, and they service businesses in North and South Carolina, Tennessee, and Florida. Welcome, Bryan.
Hey, thanks, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
Great. So, Bryan, tell us about what brought you to the law.
Yeah, so like many young budding law students, I wanted to cut my teeth against intellectual giants, people who worked hard, and I come from a very poor, economically depressed town, and I didn't even know a lawyer. And so iteratively through the academic process, I fell in love with the idea of joining the noblest profession. It's a defender of the defenseless, a voice for the voiceless. And so it just seemed really attractive to do that, though I had no idea what kind of law I would practice, right? I just knew that I wanted to be a member of the bar, and I wanted to see what that could be. And so I guess what initially attracted me to the law, I certainly didn't dream about being, a commercial lawyer down the road, but such is life.
So the question ultimately is, like, after you've identified that as a profession, how did you come to your specialty?
So I started my first job after law school was a white shoe Belvedere firm, a commercial law firm here in town, and a great firm. And I began to take, as young associates do, the cases that you're handed from the partners, and the result was that I started working with business owners, entrepreneurs, and when you look beyond the contracts and the disputes and the legal issues that we as professionals like to wrap ourselves in, we're talking about families who pour everything they have into their businesses. And so I fell in love with commercial law because I fell in love with the stories of the entrepreneurs who were just like my grandfather, who, worked 80 hours a week for no money for years, right? To build something that would become a legacy for them. And so that's really, the rest is serendipitous. I got hooked, as they say, really early.
And you have a client story you want to share, or a process that you want to share?
Yeah. So, in reviewing, the Lawyers Who Care process or podcast, I think that I love the name. So when we talk about caring, I think any successful lawyer, you have to start with caring. If you're just there to win, right, it's hollow. So a few years ago, as I indicated to you earlier, Andrew, I represented a mid-sized construction company. It looked like a routine commercial dispute, right? On paper, we're talking about payment schedules and retainage. There's about $1.2 million withheld. But much like those entrepreneurs I started working with, right, this is a second generation owner, families that poured everything into their business, with employees who stayed during the lean years of 2008 through hurricanes and payroll deadlines. And on the other side, of this construction contract was a large developer using delay tactics and building leverage through financial pressure. So, like many cases and many lawyers, when I started working with this client, we start with demand letters, posturing for settlement, and those types of things. But as I began working with these folks and getting to know them, it became evident that we're talking about saving their future, right, their legacy. So I ended up getting in my car and I drove out to the client site. I walked the job. I met the team. And when you see the steel and the sweat that build these structures, I was inspired by the team, by their business. And so I went back to my office that night, rewrote our strategy. We traced the payment trail for those folks, found really subtle inconsistencies and lien releases, and began preparing for mediation. So as we built the narrative, we didn't just win at mediation, right? We didn't just settle. We secured the full payment, the change order, compensation. We ended up restoring that construction firm's cash flow for the year, and those things are great. Those are what we're expected to do. We're paid to get results, but the why and the passion for what I do comes in the moments after, when that business owner, that contractor, called me and he said, "Bryan, you didn't just win this case, you saved 47 paychecks." Right? And so, those are the kind of stories that, at least for me, and I think many of my colleagues, they reshape how we see the law, how we interact, right? It's not about contracts and courts. If I had $1 for every parent that told me their kid was a great arguer, so they'd be a great lawyer, Davis Roberts, our motto, if you will, is bridging business and law, and it's also bridging business and humanity, right? Every line I draft, every clause I negotiate, subtly you think about the people you're protecting, because that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Right, both of them.
So before we wrap up, if you could leave our listeners with one takeaway, what would that be?
One takeaway, I guess, would be that for attorneys specifically, when you get started in this business, or even if you've become jaded in the business, we talk about billable hours and metrics and KPIs, and those things are important, right, to move the ball forward. But remembering compassion, remembering what you're fighting for futures, right, not just verdicts. So that's probably the lesson that I've learned, and so far in my practice.
Gotcha. Well, look, I'd like to thank my guest, Bryan Davis of Davis Roberts. Bryan, can you provide our audience with your contact information?
Sure. My email is bdavis at davisrobertslaw.com. We have offices in Florida. We service North Carolina, Charlotte, Columbia, South Carolina, and Nashville, Tennessee. But our main office here in Jacksonville, the number is 904-242-6170.
Gotcha. This has been the Lawyers Who Care video show podcast that highlights attorneys who go above and beyond for their clients. If you're an attorney or know one who does go above and beyond, feel free to reach out to us, 914-666-6600. And Bryan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for what you do.